Good afternoon to one and all. It is a pleasure to start this occasion by heartily welcoming everybody. Our esteemed Head of Computer Science and Engineering Department, Dr. S.V. Sudha, who is the convener of the program. Our beloved faculty coordinators, Ms. P. Anita, Ms. T. Primya, and Ms. C. Vinodini, assistant professors of CSE department, and students. I welcome you all. Today's session on recent advancements in artificial intelligence organized by Computer Science Department, we have Dr. Pokuluri Kiran Sri. He has received BTech and ME in Computer Science and Engineering from JNTU and Anna University, respectively. He has obtained his PhD degree in the area of artificial intelligence from JNTU, Hyderabad. He has authorized 6 textbooks for UG and PG students of engineering in AI and published more than 80 plus research articles in various international journals and conferences. He has filed and published 4 patents in the area of deep learning. His bibliography was listed in Marquis Who is Who in the World, 29th edition 2012, USA. Professor Kiran is the recipient of Bharat Excellence Award from Dr. G.V. Krishnamurthy, former election commissioner of India for 2 times, and the recipient of Rashtra Ratan Award. He was BOS member of CSE and IT in some universities and autonomous colleges. He also worked as principal of NBKR Institute of Science and Technology, second oldest private engineering college, Vidyanagar, for 2 years. He has got 18 plus years of technical and teaching experience and working as professor in the Department of Computer Science Engineering at Sri Vishnu Engineering College for Women, Bhimavaram. He has delivered many technical talks on deep learning and AI. His research interests include deep learning, big data analytics, bioinformatics, and cloud computing. He is associated in various journals and conferences in various capacities as editor in chief, ed- editorial member, and reviewer. Thank you for accepting our invitation, sir. Participants, if you have any queries during the session, we request you to type them on the Google Meet chat box and it will be brought up at the end of the session. I request you all to turn your microphones off. Now, without any further ado, we will turn the time over to Dr. Kiran Sri, our presenter today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the nice introduction.
Thank you, sir.
On behalf of myself, it's a privilege to be part of this webinar. And I have to thank the principal of the institute, Dr. Kuru Kumaran, the head of the Department of Computer Science, Dr. Sudha Madam, and Madam Primya Kanakaraj for giving me this opportunity to share the information. So can I share the screen?
Yes, sir.
Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir, we could see.
So once again, welcome to this webinar. and have selected this topic for this webinar as the recent advancements in artificial intelligence. There is a coincidence today in this webinar. Particularly, I have authored a textbook on deep learning for peers in education that has released today. It is on 18th of this month. And coming to this webinar, we are living in a world where we cannot live without artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence has become an integral part of our life. So what is that I try to do in this hour is, how many types of artificial intelligence mechanisms are there? What are the important applications of artificial intelligence? What is machine learning, and what are the areas of machine learning, and what are the noted and prominent algorithms in machine learning? Then we try to find out why we need to go for deep learning, and then we conclude with a small use case. So the agenda I kept like this. What are the different types of mechanisms that we could find in artificial intelligence? How many mechanisms can be achievable? And what are the different applications of artificial intelligence in diverse fields, most prominently? What can be the difference between a traditional system and an AI system? And what can be the difference between AI system and a neural network system? And what exactly is machine learning? How vital this machine learning is? And what are the various mechanisms in this machine learning? What is supervised and what is unsupervised learning? What are the various algorithms that will come into this machine learning, and where exactly these algorithms can be used? And when machine learning is there, why we are going for deep learning?
Excuse me, sir.
Please.
Please share the screen.
Screen is not visible, ma'am.
We are unable to see.
Again, I will just see. I will stop sharing, and again I will just try to share this again. Now can you see the screen? Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
It is visible. Okay.
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Okay. This is what the agenda for this webinar. How many different types of mechanisms are there, and what will be the applications, and what will be the difference between a traditional system and an AI system, and what is the difference between an AI system and a neural network system? What is machine learning? What are the pros and cons of machine learning? Why we need to go for deep learning? If there is a chance, we'll go for case study also. So we have different types of AI systems. Like, can you design a system which can think exactly like a human being? It's very difficult. It's an ideal case, and we cannot replicate the human brain. So obviously, thinking humanly is very difficult objective to achieve. The second type of mechanism that we could see in artificial intelligence is acting humanly. Can some of the activities that are done by a human being can be done by a system better way? It is study of how computers do things. At this moment, people are doing better. To some extent, we have some systems which are pertaining to this acting humanly. And the third type of systems is thinking rationally. Thinking part is very difficult for a system to think like a human and think rationally. Thinking rationally, when some people ask me, I will say, can we use some computational models to design something? It's very difficult objective to achieve. Can you act rationally? Can you design systems which exhibits intelligence? It is possible. Can you design systems which exhibits an intelligent behavior? This is also possible. So we have many systems which acts like human beings, which think rationally also. So we could see some of the applications of this artificial intelligence, so that we can have a better understanding of this AI. So the prominent applications that we see in AI is IBM Deep Blue. IBM Deep Blue is a chess playing system that has defeated the world champion Gary Kasparov in 1997 itself. The challenging thing is we have a chess box of 64 squares where 32 pieces will be placed in the box, and they need to move from one place to other place based on some rules. Can you develop a strategy to implement this chess game is what is the challenge that we have. It is the same when you consider a tic-tac-toe game where we have 9 squares. It can be a NIM game also. So Deep Blue is a chess playing system that was developed in 1997 initially. When people talk about AI, they will talk about games. The second example that we can tell is a Tesla. It can be semi-automated car or self-driven cars, where the prominent features will be lane centering, adaptive cruise control, and automatic lane change. All these are the ingredients of Tesla, and Tesla basically is a product of deep learning. And most of the people heard this name as Sophia. Sophia is a humanoid robot where it can give expressions like human beings, it can interact with people, it can represent some emotions, it can also give some facial expressions. We can see Sophia is taking some classes for students. So this Sophia, the basic principle that was behind Sophia is deep learning. And we could also see an expert system called Mycin. Many versions of Mycin are available, where Mycin is an expert system that will assist the doctor to prescribe medicines without any side effects. You tell the symptoms, it will also tell the possible diseases that are attributed to the symptoms. Many applications are there in the terms of artificial intelligence. You can see here we have artificial intelligence in sports. We call it as Hawkeye. What is the diversity of the ball after pitching is what we call. We use this AI. Many softwares are there in AI. Like it's very difficult to predict after pitching the ball how much deviation it will go in the wickets and what is the height that it will take. In facial recognition also, like we have Twitter and Facebook everywhere, this face recognition is used to find out loyal people by using this deep learning mechanisms. And not only this too, we have many applications of artificial intelligence. For example, we take weather prediction. We have many expert systems which can predict the variations of weather in the terms of temperature, wind speed, rainfall, atmospheric pressure, many other parameters. We have many systems which will use this artificial intelligence. Most important application of AI is stock market prediction, because stock market varies with every time in the terms of news, in the terms of values, in the terms of investors coming in and liquidity. Many other parameters are there. Dynamically, the stock market will change. So we have many expert systems that were built on the background of deep learning to predict the variations of stock market with respect to a closing price or any other parameter. So most of the people have witnessed 2 movies called as Terminator and Matrix, where we could see the amount of artificial intelligence that was inculcated into that picture. So recently we have seen an e-challan mechanism that was going to be adopted in India also. When a car exceeds the speed limit of a prescribed cutoff, then what will happen is the CCTVs that are kept in the NH5s and whatever, they will take the images and they will convert that image into text, and automatically the challan will be sent to your email, which is pertaining to that car. All these are applications of artificial intelligence. You could see most of the people will be visiting websites like Flipkart and Amazon, where all the product suggestions that we have is the background was artificial intelligence. Even for you go for YouTube also, the suggestions that are pertaining to your preference is based on deep learning mechanisms and machine learning mechanisms. Even for a surprise, like people in MIT, they are working on deep learning to predict the future. And most of the people heard about the name called as IBM Watson. It is a question and answer mechanism. Most of the time, it is supporting. It has become an expert system which support health informatics. To summarize what exactly I'm trying to tell, applications of artificial intelligence, because in the next slide is something different. Artificial intelligence is everywhere. It was there in sports like hockey that I have seen. It was in agriculture, like it has come in drone technology. What type of crop is needed, crop selection, crop monitoring, and automobile sector. I said we have something called as Tesla, which have designed semi-automatic car, self-assisted car, self-driven cars. All this, so AI will be was there in automobile industry also. AI was also in shopping industry, like all the e-commerce websites that I said for product recommendation. And now, if you see many of the websites of the banks and other entities, we have customer support in the terms of chatbots we say. We have a chatbot called as Eliza, where you interact with the chatbot. It will tell you the mindset of the person at that time. It will ask many questions like, how are you? What was the day? How was the day? And what is it that you have done from the morning? And based on the answers that you give to that chatbot, it will tell you the mindset at that moment of the particular person. AI was in home automation. Everywhere when you have a TV, or when you have some TV with a timer, or you have a refrigerator or AC, all this we will be using AI integrated with IoT. So home automation, we have a in social network, in particularly every social network that can be pertained to either Twitter or a Facebook or any other place where we talk about images, videos, and text. We have artificial intelligence that was already there. AI was in gaming purpose, developing games like chess, tic-tac-toe game, or name game, whatever it may be, or the strategies that are based on the heuristic that we select. And we have AI applications in gaming also. Even in education sector, AI has a prominent role in dynamically selecting the courses. What is that we can also say, when people have designed a system in deep learning to train the students based on the level of knowledge. So AI was in navigation sector also, where you use maps wherever it is. See, I wish to find out what is the traffic between Vijayawada to Chennai. Then obviously the basic strategy that was behind all these navigation apps is your deep learning and artificial intelligence. AI was mostly used in health sector, like most of the expert systems like Mason and many other expert systems are there trying to predict what is the disease causing gene, or what is the need of having, if you have 6 fingers in the hand, what is the reason for having that 6 fingers. Most of the see, IBM Watson will be in the health sector. Even in creative field also, like designing robots like Sophia, this artificial intelligence is used. Most of the people heard about the name called as Siri. Siri was developed by Apple. It's a virtual assistant, like it can take voice queries. It can answer your queries. It can give us the recommendations. See what is the best path to reach somewhere to somewhere. Then it will give. It can set something. The same thing we have Alexa from Amazon. Like we have, it is like a virtual assistant again. It will interact with you in the terms of voice, music, what is that, recommendation, and home automation. All these things can be done by your Alexa. That was from Amazon. So many applications are there. I wish to just mention a few of them. Even now, for the last 4 months, if you see the way in which the COVID is spreading, we have various mechanisms on deep learning and machine learning to address these COVID issues. Like, how do you practice social distancing? See, you have a big enterprise where you need to monitor whether people are practicing social distancing norms or not. We have a deep learning mechanism that was developed. We have a deep learning mechanism that was developed in the terms of CNN to scan the X-rays of the patients, and it will patients, and it will find whether this patient there is a probability that he will get COVID or not. Even for masks also, we have almost 16 different algorithms now that are produced to find out whether the person is wearing the mask or not. If he wears the mask, how perfect it is. So we have various mechanisms to address this COVID issues also in this AI. So AI is very important. That's what I said. AI is everywhere, and AI is an integral part of our life now. So I'm just going to the next slide. Like, what is the difference between a traditional system and an artificial intelligence system? And if somebody asks me what is the difference between AI system and neural network system, also we can have. So in a traditional system, what is that we try to do is try to write the source code, then try to compile, and we try to get the output. But in artificial intelligence system, in general, we try to collect the data sets and try to apply this machine learning and deep learning techniques there, and try to generate a prediction algorithm. It is a predictor, or it is a model that we will get from artificial intelligence. In this, if still somebody asks me what is the difference between AI and neural network, and AI mostly the focus will be on design part, where a neural network the focus will be on training and testing part. And the representation that you follow in AI is symbolic representation, and the representation that you follow in neural networks is a numeric representation. So the output can be explained very easily in artificial intelligence. And neural network, it's very difficult. When you go for deep neural network also, we cannot predict the output, and we cannot explain the output, how it has come. It cannot be explained. So the processing that we see in artificial intelligence is sequential processing, and the processing that we see in neural network is a distributed processing. And the fault tolerance will be more in neural network. It's very less in artificial intelligence, which is very important. In general, if somebody asks me what is the difference between traditional system and machine learning system, I say in machine learning system, what is that we do is we have some input, we have some output. We try to build a model from this actually. In machine learning, we try to build a model which will take this input and give that output. But that's not the case in traditional system, which is very, very important. So the output of machine learning system is a model which will take this input and give the output, whereas in traditional systems we get the output as the end product. This is an important slide. What exactly is artificial intelligence and what exactly is machine learning and deep learning? In general, an informal definition is if somebody want to implement AI, they can use either machine learning algorithms or deep learning algorithms. In general, what can I tell about AI? Because we have seen all the different types of mechanisms that we have in AI. AI will enable the machines to think. And machine learning algorithms, it will use statistical tools to explore the data. Or if somebody asks me, I can also tell other definition for machine learning. AI systems needs the ability to acquire their knowledge by extracting some patterns from raw data. The ability to extract patterns from that raw data is called as machine learning. And deep learning is very simple, deep in the terms of when the data is more and the features are more, obviously machine learning algorithms will not work properly in the terms of performance. So obviously you have to go for deep learning. Deep in the terms of we have many layers, which are hidden layers based on the requirement of the application. The number of layers will increase. When the features increase, the layers increase. So we call it as deep learning. Deep learning is nothing but a deep neural network. So when AI is talking in the terms of design, machine learning will talk in the terms of how can you predict something without the ability to learn without explicitly getting programmed is called as machine learning. It's a very important definition. And the other part that most of the people has to understand here is the output of machine learning is a model. I give an input, you have an output. This is what the model that can be fitted into this. This is what I'm trying to convey. So there are different types of machine learning mechanisms. We have supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and we have reinforced learning. And we have some drawbacks of machine learning. That is the reason we are going for a deep learning. So, most of the people who are listening to this, because all these are known. In supervised learning, the data is labeled. I know the classes of the particular data where it belongs to. So the algorithm tries to predict the output from the given input. It's very easy. In unsupervised learning, the data is not labeled. So your algorithm has to find out the inherent structure from the input. It will try to find out high intrasimilarity and low intersimilarity. So this is what the challenge of unsupervised learning. And reinforced learning is based on the feedback that we have. So like when we try to build a robot, then we try to go for reinforced learning. So if you still ask me what are the applications of supervised learning, I can tell sentimental analysis, recommendation systems, spam filtering, and coming to unsupervised learning, we can say document clustering, anomaly detection. And I said when we try to have a feedback, like when we are going for reinforced learning, we try to build some parts of a robot like robotics, traffic management, and personal recommendation systems are part of reinforced learning. If you take some feedback based on it, it will recommend various things. But we try to get into actual what are the aspects of supervised learning, how many ways of supervised learning are there, and then we'll try to find out what are the general algorithms that we find in supervised learning, and we try to find out where exactly these algorithms can be applied and what are the strengths of these algorithms and what are the weaknesses of the algorithms. So I said supervised algorithm, supervised learning, the data is labeled. So obviously the challenge that we have is only very simple, like we need to map. That is what supervised learning is. It is supervised learning is two types of that. It can be regression or classification.
Hello.
Hello.
Excuse me, sir.
Madam, please.
Your screen is off, sir.
Screen is off. Okay. It is not like that. What is that I do is again I will just share the screen there. I think wait is not happening. Can you see the screen, madam? Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you. I think there may be some technical glitch there. So we have two different mechanisms in supervised learning. One is classification, and in general, classification is the process of categorizing a given set of data into classes. But the strength of classification is it can be performed on structured as well as unstructured data. We get a class at the end of the classification output. A regression is very simple. Regression is a statistical approach to find the relation between some variables. So in this regression, we can talk about linear regression, where linear regression will be used when you want to predict a continuous dependent variables from the number of independent variables. And the most important algorithms that we could find in supervised learning is random forest, support vector machine, and k-nearest neighborhood. These two are very important. The strength of random forest is it can be used both for regression as well as classification. And random forest, the advantage that we have is the trees can be built independently. Indirectly, what is that I try to say is independent trees can be built parallelly, so that the tree building time will be very less. And the war fitting, the model does not war fit very easily. And the outcome, like the accuracy that you get from this random forest is considerably better. reasonably better. But the disadvantage is, if you want to have more accuracy, we need to try to build more trees. What will happen is it will slow the process. And also the random forest tree, it's very difficult to interpret. It's not like a decision tree where we can interpret it very easily. The disadvantage that we could see in random forest is also time consuming. Many of the banking algorithms are written in random forest, like credit card fraud detection. All this, many other banking system algorithms were written, try to have this random forest algorithm as their main emphasis. So the next important algorithm in supervised learning is support vector machine. In support, the strength of support vector machine is same. Like I said, a random forest can be applied for both classification and regression. The same case, support vector machine is also can be used for classification as well as regression also. And the strength that particularly SVM has is it can be applied for both linear as well as non-linear problems. And support vector machine, most of the people will use it on face detection. And I have used the support vector machine many times in bioinformatics to find the predict a gene in a body, where when somebody somebody suffering with a chronic disease for years, we try to find out whether this gene was inherited from their father or mother. So mostly support vector machine will be used in bioinformatics, and handwritten recognition is the most important application that we could find in SVM. The disadvantage, the main disadvantage, most of the people will not use this SVM is it cannot process large data sets. And also when we try to have this performance in the terms of noise, like it cannot process data sets with more noise. The performance, when the noise is there, the performance will be very poor. That is what the strength and weakness of support vector machine. And we can also think about decision tree algorithm. Most of the people know about decision tree algorithm. Like decision tree algorithm can be again used for both classification as well as regression. So decision tree uses a tree representation to solve the problems where which levels will come into a class level and the leaves will have a class level. But the disadvantage that we have in decision tree is for a small data also it will have it has to build a big tree. And most of the applications on operations research in decision analysis, this decision tree is used. And we have a very simple k-nearest algorithm, because k-means is unsupervised. K-nearest neighborhood is a supervised algorithm, where the basis of this k-nearest algorithm is similarity measure. Like it stores all the cases available and classifies the cases based on similarity measure. Similarity means in the terms of distancing functions. Distance functions or any other function that can be used. Again, this k-nearest algorithm can be used for both classification and regression. Most of the people like economic forecasting, their application, people will use this for economic forecasting. Many people like in the terms of how this economy will, how the gold prices will vary, how the petrol prices will vary. Most of the people will use this. So this is what supervised algorithm. My interest is what type of algorithms are available. When can I use this algorithm? What is the strength of support vector machine? And you see, when I have linear and non-linear data, then straight away I will go for the support vector machine. But the problem with support vector machine is it cannot support large data sets. So every algorithm that we have, particularly this random forest, decision tree algorithm, SVM, and k-nearest neighbor, all these four can be used both for regression as well as classification. That's what I need to tell you. And another thing most of the people know is, like, we have unsupervised learning where the data is not labeled, and we need to try to find out the inherent relations in the input based on some conditions. Based on that, we try to find out which class it is. It's a dynamic. So when we try to apply this unsupervised learning, we try to have high intersimilarity and high intrasimilarity and very low intersimilarity. So we need to have make clusters based on that. So we have a simple algorithm called as principal component analysis that can be that is under your unsupervised learning algorithm. Most of the people uses this PCA for facial recognition and image compression, because this PCA is a statistical technique that is used to examine the interrelation among a set of variables. It's very simple. It's a statistical technique where it will be trying to interrelate and examine the set of variables. Based on that, it will apply this. Most of the people, when try to have this recognition in the terms of facial recognition and image compression, most of the people use this PCA. The oldest algorithm that we find in unsupervised learning is K-means algorithm. Still, people are using this K-means algorithm. Whenever people try to think about K-means algorithm, they're thinking about document clustering, image segmentation, image compression. All these are applications of K-means. So when we need to try to compress data, generally people will go for PCA. When you try to compress images or segment images, clustering the documents, then we go for K-means algorithm. It's a simplest and most popular unsupervised algorithm. So what can I do is the K-means algorithm is the simplest path where it identifies key number of centroids and then allocates each data point to the nearest cluster. The advantage that we have for K-means algorithm is it can handle large data sets. That's the reason most of the people, while SVM does not work, they will go for K-means. So the disadvantage that people generally, when we try to implement K-means algorithm, it's very difficult to find that value of K. So rescaling the data sets will also, when we try to rescale the data set, the complexity will change. So after K-means algorithm, we have an algorithm called as a priori algorithm for finding these frequent item sets in data mining, where we have an example called as market basket analysis. That is also will come into unsupervised learning. Hierarchical clustering is also one of the important examples of unsupervised learning. The advantage that hierarchical clustering has is the tree that is generated is self-explanatory. It's very easy to implement this hierarchical clustering. So coming to this unsupervised learning, most of the people still use K-means algorithm, and a priori algorithm is specific to frequent item prediction that we see in data mining actually. So, but if somebody asks me like I wish to have something, I have some question like this. Last time when I have taken a webinar, they asked like, can we perform arithmetic operations on Arabic numerals or Roman numerals, which is faster? I thought performing arithmetic operations on Roman numerals is faster, but I am wrong actually. The reason is machine learning, it depends upon the choice of representation actually. The representation of Arabic numerals is very efficient, so that when arithmetic operations has to be performed, Arabic numerals will be faster than Roman numerals. So the performance of your machine learning algorithms will change with respect to the representation. So how this problem can be solved? What is the drawback of machine learning actually? See, I have given a set of images and I have asked you to find out the animal like on a car. We have some images of animals and we have a set of images of cars. I try to just differentiate between some animal. See, I have to get output as two classes. It is an animal or it is a car. So it's very easy. When the number of features are very less, and I wish to complicate this question, like I asked what car it is and what type of animal it is, then the number of features that we need to train the system will be more. So when the representation, your machine learning algorithms are dependent on the representation. That is the reason I said for performing arithmetic operations, Arabic numerals will be faster than Roman numerals. So what does machine learning will do is, machine learning, the performance will vary with respect to the representation of data. So when the representation of data is different, what is the solution for machine learning algorithms? The solution for machine learning algorithms is it has to go for deep learning algorithms. So deep learning will solve the central problems of the representation by introducing the representation in the terms of simpler representation. That's the reason we said we have input can be processed into some visible number of visible layers. Based on the number of features, we have some hidden some amount of layers. So the disadvantage that we have in machine learning is error susceptibility. It cannot have high dimensional data. It cannot process. If the data volume increases and the features increases, the performance of the algorithms will decrease. That's what I just have a slide here. When the amount of data increases, in general,
Sir, can you share your screen, sir?
again, that's happening because. And now it is visible. It is visible.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So in general, what will happen is, in normal machine learning algorithms, when the amount of data increases, the performance is like a plateau. We will have the same performance after any number of iterations. But the performance of deep learning algorithms will increase when the number of amount of data is more, and even the number of features are also more. So that is the reason we need to have a structure called as deep learning, where the strength of deep learning is it can learn both from structured as well as unstructured data, and it can also learn from labeled and unlabeled data. So what can in a sentence I can say, a deep learning where the strategy can learn from structured as well as unstructured, as well as labeled as well as unlabeled data. So deep means it consists of many hidden layers based on the number of features. See this diagram, this is the number of features, the number of layers will be more. So when people try to have applications on speech, vision, and audio, video, most of the applications that have the speech, audio, video, they will go for deep learning. Many deep learning algorithms are there. We can have a single perceptron algorithm where we have only simple neuron for this, and we have multi-layer perceptron mechanism, where multi-layer perceptron mechanism is a feed-forward network. But the limitation that we have for multi-layer perceptron is it can have at most 2 hidden layers. But still, multi-layer perceptron has many applications like image recognition, speech recognition, and data clustering. Even e-commerce applications, most of the time, people will use this multi-layer perceptron technique. So most of the people, when people talk about deep learning, they talk about RNN, recurrent neural networks. When the data is in a time series data, or what is that? It is when the data is sequential data. It can be sequence of words, sequence of images, sequence of videos. then people try to apply this RNN, because RNN uses an internal memory to store some variable inputs, so that the mapping and concept can be very easily done. When people try to have this RNN, see, I wish to find out the variations of stock market. I can go for RNN or I can go for LSTM. LSTM is an extension of RNN actually. LSTM is long short-term memory, where we have a time series data, and see, I need to process. See, stock market variations are dependent on various variations of closing price. Apart from that, the news data, news will change the stock market. Apart from that, the Twitter communications will also change the stock market considerably. So we need to apply this sentimental analysis on the stock market, where there I can, because this data is sequential data, I can go for RNN or LSTM, because LSTM is an extension of RNN. So whenever time series data is there, generally people will go for RNN. And many, but this basic strategy that I said in a multi-layer perceptron, the mechanism that was used is feed-forward network, but RNN is a back propagation network actually. So when people try to have a sentimental analysis, they will go for RNN. Natural language processing, then because it is in a sequence of words, obviously they will go for RNN. Speech recognition, handwritten, speech recognition, handwritten, how do you find the similarities in this handwriting, all this will come into the applications of RNN. And CNN. That's what I said in the starting, like most of the people, when they try to apply this CNN, like can we process the X-rays of patients of COVID and try to find out whether this X-rays, the new patients can get this COVID or not? Yes, we have almost 17 types of different mechanisms that are developed developed under CNN to find whether the X-rays are pertaining to this COVID or not. So whenever people try to have the videos or images, they will go for CNN. So RNN is a back propagation strategy, and CNN is a feed-forward network. Whenever people to try to do some things in the terms of image processing or video recognition or pattern recognition, medical image analysis, all this will be pertaining to CNN. If you see the most recent papers, because my textbook on deep learning and Pearson education, where what is that we have tried to, we have models which will also address the latest TAN. We have a model called TAN, that is of deep learning, which will have energy efficient model. So we combine this TAN with CNN, and we have many models which combine CNN and RNN. So based on the applications, we need to choose the correct model, and based on the input that we have, the data set that we have, also we need to choose the correct deep learning model. That's what about RNN, CNN, and LSTM. So LSTM, I said, it's a long short-term memory. It is an extension of RNN. Generally, people will use it for the stock market prediction, sentiment analysis, and many other applications of that. The third one, after that, we have GAN. GAN means generative adversarial networks. It is unsupervised structure, where most of the time when people talk about video games, they go for this GAN. And health diagnosis, what is the disease causing gene, whether it is inherited from your father or mother. How do you find a protein coding region in your body? All this can be addressed by using GAN. Some of the important problems that we have in bioinformatics that can be answered by using this GAN. It's very easily applied into bioinformatics area, even in cybersecurity also. When people try to remember this GAN, they will remember in two aspects, like health sector and cybersecurity sector. Many applications of GAN are there. You could see in the internet, like health sector, we have many. Even in some video games, this technology was used because it was unsupervised structure. So obviously, it will attract more games also. So RBM, restricted Boltzmann mission, it's very simple. Like when we try to go for filtering recommendation systems, personal recommendation system, most of the people are talking about topic modeling now. You could see the website of IIT Madras where most of the people, two researchers, they are working on Dr. Jankiram and this topic modeling. So RBM in general will be used for this topic modeling. It can learn this topic modeling or restricted Boltzmann mission. What it will do is it can learn from the probability distribution or set of inputs. Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir, we can see.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you. So the last very important network that we have for deep learning is a deep belief network, where the structure of deep belief network is an unsupervised structure, unsupervised probability structure. When people try to think about images and face recognition, because obviously this DBM is used in our Facebook. When we need to build a video in the terms of images or video sequence recognition, and we need to find out whether the video is fabricated video or it was original, obviously people will use this DBM, deep belief neural networks, and it will be used for motion capturing also. Many different deep learning models are there. Deep generative models are there, restricted Boltzmann mission that we have seen, generative adversarial models are there, auto encoders are there. We need to, my emphasis of all the entire presentation is what are the recent advancements that we have in deep learning, and what exactly are the applications of artificial intelligence, what is machine learning, what are the techniques that we have in machine learning, and what is the disadvantage that we have in machine learning, and why we need to go for deep learning, and what mechanisms are there in deep learning, and when can I choose what model, when can I go for SVM, when I have a non-linear data and the data is very less, then I will go for SVM. When the data is more, then I go for K-means LLM. When I try to address or process videos, then I will go for CNN. When I have a sequential data where I need to find the variations of gold price for the last 1 year, then I will go for LSTM or RNN. Like every model will have its own strength and its own weakness. So my interest is what are the recent advancements and where exactly that we can use. Even the deep learning model that we have discussed, we have a small deep learning model called as multi-layer perceptron model with n number of applications. You take any e-commerce application, you have multi-layer perceptron neural network model where you have only 2 hidden layers, but the strength of that structure is more. So these are the references that I have used, and I have to thank our vice chairman and the principal, vice principal. Particularly, I have to thank your principal, Dr. Purukumaran sir, and Dr. Sudha madam, and Primya Kanakaraj, the coordinator of this webinar, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can take up now. You can also contact me offline through this email. You have any questions, you can type in the chat box so that I can take it one by one.
Participants, if you have any questions, you can type it in the type box. Sir, I will be reading out the questions from the participants, sir.
Please. Yes, I will be sharing the PPT, but apart from the PPT, I have some other material where you could find out where exactly what model is used. I will share that information also to your coordinator, Dr. Primya Kanakaraj, so that she will share you the corresponding information. See, we have many deep learning algorithms that are working in the area of cybersecurity. See, we have a model called as GAN, Generative Adversarial Neural Networks, which is an unsupervised structure where people talk about GAN, they're only talking about cybersecurity. So most of the cybersecurity models that were pertain to this GAN. So it is the answer for this is this. When people try to address some issues in cybersecurity, they straight away can use this GAN because GAN is straight away you can it's available. The code is available and you change the parameters and
Participants, any other queries?
Deep learning now they are deep learning people are using in metallurgy and mechanical departments also. The reason is we have a field of artificial intelligence called as robotic process RPA. Mostly people have this RPA, robotic process automation, where we try to have which model can be used for real-time data. See, it depends. Like when you try to have a model for predicting stock market variations by using a Twitter, because you have a Twitter developer account. If you take the data is can be processed by using a technique called as LSTM, long shorter memory.
So there's another query. How can we access in AI in mechanical?
See, in mechanical, people try to have, we have a concept called as robotics. When see, we have, when people try to build a robot, when we need to have people from mechanical department to build the structure of the robot, and people from ECE and computer science, we need to write the code. And AI, see, you could see a lab in Jadavpur University, we call it as a robotics lab, where almost 50% machine learning people will be there and 50% mechanical people will be there. So many applications are there, like not only in robotics that is pertaining to mechanical, many other applications are there pertaining to mechanical department. So when we go for machine learning in the terms of data size, yes. See, when the data size is very less, in general, we will be using an SVM algorithm. But when the data size is more, in general, I'm talking, when data size is more, then generally we go for K-means algorithm. K-means algorithm is an unsupervised structure, whereas SVM is a supervised structure. SVM can be used for both of them, both of the classification as well as cluster, which will go for machine in the terms of data size. That's what I said. When the data size is more and it is data is pertaining to images, then go for K-means algorithm. Data size is very less, then go for SVM. When you have a linear as well as non-linear data, that is better.
So there's another query. Can you tell me about machine language and its use in AI? By Prashant.
Can you tell me about machine language?
Language and its use in AI.
Machine learning, it seems to be the question is like, can you tell me about machine learning and how it is used in
and it's used in AI? Yes, sir.
What is machine learning? If somebody want to implement AI, we have to use machine learning algorithms. That machine learning algorithms can be deep learning algorithms or any other algorithm. So what is that we need to tell is, if AI has to be implemented, they have to use either machine learning algorithms or neural network algorithms or deep learning algorithms. So AI is theoretical, it talks about design. So coming to the implementation, by trying to have a testing code or a training code, that has to be done in machine learning language. This is what it is.
Okay, sir. Participants, any other queries?
I think thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for giving me this opportunity. And if you have any further queries, you can ping me on WhatsApp, or you can also email me, so that I have the process of replying, because I have been giving this webinars for the last 3 months. So every time when we have a webinar, generally people will ask questions after the conclusion of the webinar. We will try to. Can I unmute and speak? Please, if somebody want to speak, you can speak.
Hello, sir.
Please.
Sir, which is the recent research area in artificial intelligence, sir?
Most of the people now they are working in various aspects of deep learning, madam. So in artificial intelligence, now the boom. See, we have a deep learning lab in various IITs. Even you go for IIT Madras or even you go for Kharagpur and Kanpur, most of the researchers they are working in different aspects of deep learning. How can you apply deep learning? How can you address various applications in deep learning? So if you take deep learning, deep learning will be there at least for 10 to 15 years as per the Gartner's report. So you take deep learning with respect to videos or with respect to audio processing or text analytics, that will be a better choice.
Sir, if
Naveen,
I'm a fresher, how to develop in it?
if you are a fresher, it's very first just try to learn the basics of machine learning. See, it's very easy because now every whatever code that we earlier when we are having our VTech in 1997, we have a language called as Pascal, Prolog. We call that Prolog as an AI language. But now what is happening here is whatever very simple, like I need K-means algorithm, that K-means algorithm code was there in Python. You can implement by using Keras as well as TensorFlow. So try to learn basic concepts of machine learning. Obviously, after that, this deep learning is very easy for you. So if you want to have some material, I just can share with Premium and then she will share with the group. Any other questions?
Participants, any other queries?
Robin, it seems we can conclude.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Sir, hello.
Please.
Yeah. Gratitude is the healthiest of all human emotions. The more you express gratitude for what you have, the more likely you will have even more to express gratitude for. Good evening once again. I am honored to have given the opportunity to present the vote of thanks on this great evening. First of all, I'd like to express my sincere thanks to our Madam Secretary, Dr. Davamani T. Palniswamy, and our Principal, Dr. K. Purkumaran, for having permitted us to organize this event. I express my hearty thanks to the Head of the Computer Science and Engineering Department, Dr. S.V. Sudha, who is the convener of this event. I would also like to thank our dignified faculty coordinators, Ms. P. Anita, Ms. C. Vinodini, Ms. Ella Sujitra, Ms. T. Primya, for putting all their efforts in organizing this event. On behalf of the management and the entire organizing team, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our chief guest, Dr. Pokkuluri Kiran, for readily accepting the invitation and sharing your knowledge and experience with us today. Sir, it was a very informative session. I would like to express our sincere thanks to you for giving an excellent coverage on recent advancements in artificial intelligence, some of the important topics including supervised and unsupervised learning, AI mechanisms, and it was very informative, sir. And finally, I would like to thank all the participants today for joining us. Thank you, sir. Thank you all, and have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's my privilege. I'm signing off now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.